The young woman in the red apron knelt beside the old man, placing a warm bread roll in his trembling hands. She didn't ask where he had come from, or why his eyes carried the kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep could erase. Every morning, she simply left the meal. No questions, no conditions. But on the 11th day, everything changed. For military SUVs pulled up outside, tires crunching on the dusty pavement in perfect formation. A uniformed officer stepped out holding a letter. The bakery fell into an eerie silence. And when that woman walked out, everyone stood. In the sleepy town of Arroyo Mesa, New Mexico, mornings always began with the warm scent floating from Elena's bakery. Nestled between a forgotten pawn shop and an abandoned gas station, the little brick bakery exuded the comforting notes of melting butter, vanilla, and fresh rising bread. Elena Marquez, 34, had lived her whole life here, never leaving for more than a weekend trip. Each day before the sun even brushed the distant peaks of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, Elena was already in the kitchen, rolling dough, shaping bagels, baking cinnamon-sweet muffins, and preparing the cheddar biscuits that the town seemed to crave like air. She wasn't a loud woman, nor did she seek attention. She didn't linger after work for drinks or join in the gossip at the market. But she remembered birthdays no one else did. She knew who liked 2 sugars in their coffee and who preferred it bitter as heartbreak. And she was the only one who noticed the old man sitting quietly by the recycling bins at 6:10 a.m. every morning. He wore a battered cap over silver hair, his coat threadbare and dust-coated. He never asked for anything, just sat with his shoulders slightly hunched as if trying to vanish into the background. His eyes, though, were sharp, not vacant, not dull, but watchful, as if he had spent too long in places where looking away meant danger. At first, Elena thought he might be waiting for someone. But after a week, then 2, and still he never left that bench except to disappear sometime mid-morning. Every day, when she swept the back patio before unlocking the doors, he would offer her a small nod. Nothing more. Then, one frigid Tuesday morning, frost etching the windows, Elena stepped outside holding a brown paper bag. Inside was a leftover turkey sandwich, a blueberry muffin, and a tightly sealed cup of hot coffee. She placed it on the bench beside him, murmuring, more to herself than to him, "Kitchen must have gone overboard today." The man looked at the bag, then at her. No rush. No gratitude demanded or displayed. Just a long, assessing look, the kind that weighed the soul. Finally, he nodded, deeper this time. The next day, he returned. And so did the paper bag. And just like that, a ritual was born. No greetings. No questions. No names. Only the silent passing of food and the equally silent exchange of nods. Elena told no one. Not even Gustavo, the bakery's gruff but good-hearted owner. She didn't have a reason, other than perhaps an old lesson from her grandfather, a veteran who spoke little of the war but much of decency. Or maybe it was the memory of her own hunger in the years after her mother died, when the world turned too cold for kindness. Whatever the reason, it felt right. Necessary. Essential. It wasn't long before people started to notice. "He's back again," murmured a woman near the coffee station one Wednesday. Not quite loud enough to be called rude, but loud enough. "Guess Elena's running a soup kitchen now," joked a young worker wiping down the counter. Elena didn't answer. She continued slicing bread, movements calm, deliberate, sacred. A few days later, Mr. Solis, a retired coach who nursed an espresso every morning, grumbled, "Back in my day, men like that knew better than to loiter respectable places. No one gave out freebies either." Elena smiled softly, her hands never pausing. Only old Mrs. Delgado, who sold scratch tickets outside the market, leaned in one morning and whispered, "You've got your abuela's heart, Nina." Elena stilled for a moment. Her grandmother, who once turned stale tortillas into soup for strangers in bitter winters, whose hands always smelled of cilantro and lye soap. That same morning, the bench was empty. Still, Elena packed the paper bag. Still set it on the bench at 6:10. The coffee steamed alone in the cool air. The napkin tucked inside fluttered away with the wind like a tiny white flag. The next day, nothing. And the next. And the next. On the 4th day, Gustavo called her into the back office, his forehead lined with worry. "Elena, I know you mean well, but customers are talking. That man, he made people nervous." "He never came inside," Elena said softly. "You leave food out there every day." "It looks like charity," Gustavo said awkwardly. "I pay for it myself. From my tips. It doesn't affect the shop." Gustavo sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm not saying stop. Just be subtle. Maybe out back." Elena nodded. That night she emptied her tip jar. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cover bread, coffee, and a muffin for the next week. She slipped the bills into an envelope and wrote in careful letters, "For breakfast supplies." Days slipped by. The bench remained empty. Each morning, she packed the bag. Each morning, it sat untouched. 10 days later, a friend texted her a link to a Facebook post. It showed her bakery, her bench, the untouched bag. The caption read, "Elena's bakery feeding ghosts. PR stunt or pity party?" The comments were worse. Fake charity for attention. Attracting strays. This is why towns go downhill. Elena locked her phone and didn't look again. That night, she opened a battered tin box tucked in her dresser, her grandmother's box. Inside was an old, cracked leather journal. She turned to a page she had nearly memorized. "Gave half my ration today to a boy crying by the fence." Some said it was foolish. Maybe it was. But his eyes, they looked like mine when my papa never came home. You don't grow poorer by sharing bread. You only grow poorer by forgetting how. Elena ran her fingers over the faded ink. On the 11th morning, the sky was heavy with low, damp clouds. She wiped down the pastry case when the growl of tires on gravel made her look up. For black SUVs. Spotless. Identical. The bakery fell into stunned silence. Doors opened with synchronized precision. Soldiers in uniform stepped out, standing at attention. From the lead SUV, a man emerged. Tall, steady, face weathered by time and sun. His dress blues were immaculate, ribbons glinting against the gray morning light. He entered the bakery. The bell above the door sounded impossibly loud. "Is there an Elena Marquez here?" he asked, voice clear, steady. She raised her hand slightly. "I am," she said, her voice a whisper. He stepped forward. "Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Ortiz, United States Army Special Forces." From his jacket, he withdrew an envelope. "This is from Mr. Benjamin Reyes, the man you fed every morning." Elena felt the world tilt beneath her. Benjamin Reyes was the father of Staff Sergeant Elias Reyes, one of my finest men, killed in action overseas 2 months ago, Ortiz said. After his son's death, Benjamin vanished. We looked. We couldn't find him. The colonel's voice softened. 3 months ago, he wrote me. Not about his loss. About you. He unfolded the letter with reverence. He said, "She never asked. She never pitted. She just fed me like I still mattered." Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to breathe past the lump in her throat. He wrote, "Tell her she reminded a broken father that the world still has good people." Colonel Ortiz stepped back and saluted. Outside, the soldiers snapped into salutes as well. Tears welled up in Elena's eyes, falling freely now. She hadn't saved a life, hadn't fought a war. She had baked bread, offered coffee, left a meal without expectation. Yet somehow, in doing so, she had eased a soul shattered by loss. Word spread like wildfire. Within 3 days, the town's paper ran a story, the morning ritual that healed a father. Elena's days didn't change much. She still rose before dawn, still wore her red apron, still kneaded dough by hand. But the customers changed. A young woman left a note. "My brother's in the Navy. Thank you for seeing the ones we forget." A grizzled man left a military challenge coin by the register, Vietnam 72. Haven't trusted kindness in decades. Veterans, widows, children of soldiers, they came, sat, drank coffee, and remembered. One day, Elena found a letter tucked among the thank you notes. "Dear Miss Elena, I'm Lucia, Benjamin's granddaughter. We found a box under his bed. Inside were all the napkins you folded, every little note. He kept them all. Thank you for being the kind face he needed." Elena framed the letter, placing it behind the counter, where only she could see it. Weeks later, Gustavo mounted a new sign beneath the bakery's old logo. Bread for those who need it. No questions. No shame. One chilly morning, a teenager in a hoodie hesitated at the door. "My dad's deployed," she mumbled. "My mom cries a lot. Do you have bread still?" Elena smiled. "We've always got bread." That evening, while wiping down the counters, she found a new challenge coin tucked by the flour bins. Its inscription, Semper Fidelis. Never forgotten. She pocketed it. Didn't ask who left it. Didn't need to. Outside, the setting sun bathed the bakery in gold. Inside, ovens hummed and the smell of bread filled the air. Kindness had found a home here. In our darkest hours, even a simple loaf of bread can become a lifeline. And sometimes, that is enough to change the course of a life forever.